if this is you and you're listening right now, this isn't like calling you out or anything. This is actually looking within of where have I not liberated myself? Where have I told myself that my life needs to be or look a certain way? Because usually everything, as we all know, is like a projection. And when I used to think that people were lucky, it's also because I was telling myself a narrative that I actually didn't want to believe.
All right, I am jumping at the bits to dive on into this episode with Steph today. Steph, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so She Got Lucky podcast. I've already sort of phased you in on how we do things here to start the conversation and to give perhaps listeners who haven't yet seen you, heard of you, experienced your magic. I want to dive on into what others could see as the luck and what it's really taken for you, what has unlocked what others call the luck. Talk me through perhaps what other people may have commented or said, like, oh, well, you got lucky, Steph. Like, this is all freaking fabulous because of, perfect timing. Whereas what it's really taken.
I love this question because I do, and I have received that of like, wow, you're so lucky. And sure, if you go into the world of Instagram and you look at my feed and you see that I'm staying at really nice places, I'm traveling a lot, I'm living what I call a freedom-based, soul-led life. And I receive comments sometimes on Reels being like, wow, you're so lucky. I hear that from family, friends, or even friends that I know. And I think it's something that we hear quite often as entrepreneurs when we actually start to reap the benefits of our work, right? Meaning that I can now afford to stay at nice places and not like $10 hostels where I used to be staying at, right? And like couch surfing and doing all these things. I can now live the life that I want to live because I've worked really hard to build that. And so I think that as you work a lot with social media and like you're a whiz at it, I think sometimes people can see the after effects of our work as an entrepreneur of like, wow, she's living an incredible life. Look where she's living. Look where she's staying. She's traveling the world. Must be so nice. And it's so funny because I used to think that too, right? We all did at one point. I'm guilty of it. I used to be like, wow, that person's so freaking lucky that they get to do that and live here and have like a private yacht, be doing whatever the heck they want to do. But it's because I wasn't fully liberated in who I am. And so that's something that I recognize of, I've been there myself. And so when I've maybe judged people or said, wow, they're so lucky to have this incredible lifestyle. Wow, it must be so nice. And really, I look within now, with everything in hindsight, right? Of being like, wow, like it was because I believed that, this person was like fully liberated. And when I mean fully liberated, I mean they're liberated in who they are, the gifts that they have, and their ability to create wealth from impact, wealth from purpose. And it was like, where in my life right now am I not feeling that way? Where in my life do I believe that I'm trapped or have held on to conditional ways of thinking or being because I believe that maybe I'm not supposed to have that path? And so I think it's quite easy for us to look at entrepreneurs that have it all. And we're like, wow, must be nice. Living this experience, people didn't say, okay, 2 years ago, people weren't saying to me, wow, you're so lucky. Right? I didn't hear that very often. It wasn't until I started doing really well in business. My business blew up. Things were incredible. I was speaking on stages, selling out offers, but also living a really freedom-based life. And so then I started to hear those comments. I'm like, I didn't hear that 2 years ago when I was working, I swear, more than any job I've ever worked, 80 hours a week, like on the weekends, reviewing my sales pages, my emails. Nobody saw that. But here I am now being like, yeah, I've worked hard. I no longer have a business that I live in, right? It supports me. I'm able to go out and live my life while impacting my people. So yes. So if this is you and you're listening right now, this isn't like calling you out or anything. This is actually looking within of where have I not liberated myself? Where have I told myself that my life needs to be or look a certain way? because usually everything, as we all know, is like a projection. And when I used to think that people were lucky, it's also because I was telling myself a narrative that I actually didn't want to believe. And how cool is it that instead of being at, wow, they got lucky, or it's like, wow, they are an example of what's possible for me. If it's possible for you, it's possible for me. Is it not? And I want to live in the realm of possibility. So now when I see somebody, it's like, they're flying in a private jet, they're taking their family, they're traveling, they have live person events, they're doing massive things. I don't think, wow, they're lucky, because I know the work that it takes to put. I know the work. It's a lot of work. But I think, wow, thank you for showing everybody else what's actually possible. Yeah.
I love that so much, because it's spot on. I think the moment you're sort of like, oh, they're so lucky, it's like looking at someone who's just scratched a scratch ticket or a lotto ticket. It's like, oh, well, they won, but there's one winner. Like, that would never happen to me. It's almost like saying she got lucky or you're lucky instantly creates a barrier. Whereas I love this conversation because it's literally like, break down that barrier when you've liberated yourself so that you are really connected and you're allowing yourself to see what's possible for her is what's possible for me. Yes, there could be so many things. And I hear this all the time. And it's like, yeah, but you have this, you have that, you've got this head start, you've got this. And it's like 100%, I recognize that. But holding on to these sort of stories of, yeah, you're already here, or you've already got that, or yeah, instantly, it only holds you back. It only holds you back from the momentum and pushing yourself forward, because it's holding on to these stories that are like, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to stay small because I've got this reason why I have the permission slip too.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's partly like the story that we tell ourselves because we're actually afraid of, what if I go for it and it doesn't happen? Right. So it's maybe easier to tell ourselves of, well, it happened to you because you're lucky. But I always tell myself the difference between a thought and a belief is what? A belief is a thought that we believe to be true, meaning that, what do you want to be true? Do you want it to be true that she's lucky, she got a head start, she had all these things to help her? Or do you want to believe of, no, she's actually making it easier for me to step into my God-given gifts and do something about it, And it's not just me saying this. I have a client, I remember when we first started working together, many, many years ago, before I entered the world of business mentorship. She was living in her car, living in her car, had everything stacked against her. And now she runs a 6-figure plus business, has her own apartment, has a car, but she doesn't live in it anymore, And this is somebody that never once, even though she was living in a car, she was like, I'm still showing up. It's still going to happen. It's still possible for me. She didn't become a victim of her circumstances. She went for it and she didn't give up. And now she's in this incredible place in her life, making great money in her business, doing what she loves. And it's like, it's one of my favorite stories to tell because, from somebody living in their car to now having their own place and being able to financially support themselves and live in abundance. Wow. So it is about, what do you want to believe? And does that belief serve you and your highest vision? Is that the highest vision for your life? Is that what really serves you? Or do we want to believe something different? Because you can change your beliefs at any moment that you want.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So let's take a bit of a sidestep and talk into your zone of absolute magic. Now, there's many zones. There's many facets that we could dive on into. We'll see where this conversation goes. But one of the things that I am absolutely, and have to emphasize, one of the things that I am in awe of you, Steph, is how you have built, I don't want to say a community, because I feel that there has been a shift. For so long, it's always been like, I want to build a community. Whereas I've been there. I've built communities. I've built really strong, hot communities. And there is a very big difference. When it comes to communities, I feel like a lot of communities are built like when you've got that creator vibe, when you're, dropping lots of value, when you're giving to them. And people are there, like I see that much more like the free vibes, right? Like you give to that community.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the shift that I have seen, that I see that you do so well, I saw it at Freedom Queen Live, I saw the way that you led your clients. You have got such a beautiful balance of, I need a new word for this, because as I said, I don't see it in the same way as a community. I see this as this beautiful space where women absolutely adore you. They see you, they see your heart, but in the same sense, they have so much respect. They still look up to you as that leader. So it's this really beautiful balance, because for so long, what I have seen is two ends of the scale. I have seen, what for so long I was once in, like that real community vibe where it's like give, 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 give. I remember being on master classes and there would be hundreds of people in there. And the moment I took to the offer that would change their lives, it was like, well, far out, like, why are you selling to us, right? It's like that friend vibe, that friend zone, that people like you, but not necessarily look to you as the leader, right? They look to you on that same level as a friend. So there's that end, which I see a lot of people doing. How do I be liked? How do I become friends with my audience? Whereas the other end, I see there's a barrier between the leader and those who are in their world. Like there's very much like I'm up here, they're down there, and it might not be their intention, but that's how I perceive it. There's this real barrier between where everyone else is and them. Whereas what you have built is so phenomenal, because I saw the way that those ladies look to you. And that was such a beautiful dynamic. So I would love to talk about leadership.
Yeah.
How you lead, but in a way that still allows people to build beautiful relationships with you and still see your heart.
Yeah. And I love this conversation because it is true. It is really true. And we can see both sides of that spectrum. So for me, in terms of how I create that culture, that community is, first of all, leadership to me is everything. How you lead yourself, right? And how you help others lead themselves. What is really important is that we don't create a culture, a movement, a community of individuals that are codependent on you, right?
Yes.
And also, we don't want to create a space where it's like there's this barrier of like this hierarchy of I am the all knowing one, I don't believe in that. What I do believe in is that I am here to help women step in to being a leader of their movement, a leader of their community. And so I have a community of leaders. And when you have a community of leaders, the dynamic is just different, right? It's like these women are empowered. They're incredible. They're self-responsible. They embody the very same things that I do. I always say this, you call in what you're a match for. And the reason I call in incredible humans who, yes, they love me, they support me, and also they're their own leader for their clients, for their people. And the reason is I focused on being the embodiment of that myself. I focused on elevating my level of conviction in who I am and what I'm here to do. And being courageous and going out and proving that, not to the world, but to myself. Taking moves, taking risks, making decisions, not just showing up, but showing up with conviction of this is who I am and this is what I'm here to do. And I'd love you to come with me. And the other thing about it is one of my gifts is I am able to see right through people, like right through them. I'm able to like really feel into who they are, their soul, their purpose, and see what makes them so magical. Because sometimes we've normalized, right? We've normalized the things that make us so incredible. And we're looking like, what is my zone of genius? I'm just like, it's like, wow, it's so normal to you. You don't even know what it is. How crazy is that? And my gift is to pull that out of people and to help them see who they truly are and bring their gifts to life and be able to be like, this is what you're phenomenal at. This is what I see in you. You are an incredible human. You have so much to offer the world, and really create a space where these women can tap into that and feel this level of, oh yeah, and be convicted in their work. And so when we build communities, and I even said this when I was speaking on stage, it's not about you. Not about you. Not about you. What you're doing isn't about you. It's to help the people that you're meant to help. And when we lose sight of that, right, that's when we create this very distant, cold feeling of like, I keep everybody at an arm's distance. I'm somebody that, I'm heart-led. And also, I exist in the world of both. Absolutely, I embody what it means to be an authority in what I do. And also, I have a really big heart. And I have boundaries 100%. And I also call in women that understand that respect that, right? That also show that to their clients. And so it's calling in a community of leaders by acknowledging that absolutely you are a leader. And so it's really creating this incredible community of embodying the values that you say you value, right?
Yeah. Has there been a time where, because, on the journey, we turn left, we turn right. Like, I always think of it honestly like a maze in a sense. We're finding our way, we're finding our path. And in order to get to where you want to go, you need to make those moves. You need to make those decisions. Are you going to continue this way, or are you going to go left, right? What are you going to do? Has there been a time where you have perhaps made a decision, gone in a different route, gone in a different direction, and along the way you felt that you've lost your heart in a sense? Like, there's been a time where you're like, all right, we need to change things because this route I'm not liking.
Yes, 100%. And, a little bit about me, and I don't know if any of you are into like human design. I like dabble in a little bit of things, but like I'm a big trial and error thing. Like if somebody's like, don't do that, I'm like, I'm going to try it and see what happens and I'll get back to you. Like, I'm a little rebellious. So 100%. And I'm big into trying things. But also what I've learned is listen to your heart, listen to what feels good. And this is where I've learned to just unsubscribe to the BS and the rules of don't do this and do this, especially in our industry. I'm like, nah, I'm going to follow my own rules. But absolutely, there was a time and place where I would say, especially in the beginning of my journey, and I see this, and to my soul-led, big-hearted entrepreneurs, I see this a lot, which is, and I'm sure we've all had this too, is like over-delivering, packing our schedule. And so there was an absolute point in my business where I'm like, okay, I'm going to make my prices way more accessible. I'm going to be on all these calls with my clients, and I'm just going to serve them because I really, 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 really want to help. Yeah. And I came from such an amazing place, but it created a lot of codependency, right? Of clients needing me to help them get results. And it became so much. I was living inside of Telegram. I was doing so many calls a week. I was so burned out, but here I am thinking of being in service. Let me tell you something. If you burn out, are you being in service anymore? No. Like if I burn out because I'm over delivering, I have a lack of boundaries, and I think that this is the way to run my business, and I burn out, I'm not helping anybody at all. And I'm certainly not helping my clients, right? Because if I'm showcasing this kind of behavior and these types of boundaries where they're lack of, maybe they're also doing the same with their clients, and they end up in a very similar pattern as I am. And so there was a time where I really pivoted my business model and how I was operating and showing up with my clients and being like, okay, this actually isn't in their best interest. It's certainly not in mine. And so there are times where you have to really listen to your heart of like, does this make sense to continue running my business like this? And this is where I hold the belief of I'm big in strategy, 1000%. And I'm also really big in energetics and leadership and embodiment, identity work. I feel like you have to have both. But if I were to say like, okay, if 100 people were to join your world right now, do you have the capacity for it? Because if you don't, they're not coming. Because energetically, you're not even available to that. And so there were times in my business where, because I was so big-hearted, I was over-delivering. And it cost me like to nearly burn out. Or nearly, I did burn out. Like there's, why am I like, no, I burnt out 100%. And I'm like, okay, I can't keep doing 20 calls a week. It was just a lot. And then undercharging. And I see this a lot of big-hearted entrepreneurs are undercharging. Why? Because they want to make their work more accessible. Right. You can. And there are other ways to do that without burning yourself out and diluting the potency of your work. And so, I'm really in the realm when it comes to business of what I call high level sales, high impact leadership, high level sales. Why? Because your work, all of your work that you do, all of you listening, is highly transformative, right? And if your work is highly transformative, you're working with individuals that prioritize that see that as an investment in themselves, not a cost, right? And so I started to really focus, especially in close proximity spaces, of like, okay, that's going to be limited because I know that I do highly transformative work, and I'll create other spaces in my product suite that are able to meet other people at other financial levels. Yeah. Right. And so it is about having a strategy in place 100%, but it's also about, is it in best interest of you in regards to your time and your energy? Because if it's not, then it might also be somewhat damaging for your own clients.
Let's dive into high level sales more, because I really love this. And I think that there's many different understandings of what that means. So let's start off with high level sales. What does that look like? What does that feel like for you and your clients in your world?
When I talk about high level sales, I am talking about you are creating highly transformative offers, right? Usually what I'm talking about is in the high ticket space. And high level sales is being really clear about the types of people that you want to work with. Because let's be honest here, your work isn't for everybody, and that's okay. Your work is for people that see the value in what you do, that are ready to invest and back themselves and trust themselves in that investment to work with you. And so the clients that I tend to work with they're a spectrum of many different niches, but nonetheless, they are individuals that have more of like a high ticket offer, so to speak, meaning that it's highly transformative. They deliver a lot inside of that offer, and it's an incredible journey that the client gets to go on. And so when I talk about high level sales, I don't mean necessarily that this person has, tons of money. It's like, it's really people that see the value in your work and want to invest in it because they know it's going to transform their lives. And it's about individuals who, what I call premium clients. Premium clients are people who they're self-led, they're responsible. They are the ones who are really equipped to win in your world and get results, right? Mm-hmm. And if I'm not speaking to the right client and they come into my work, they won't really have the results that they had hoped for because it's not the right individual. And maybe they're not at the right stage of their business, right? Yeah. And so high level sales is really speaking to high caliber individuals that really see your offer as the one for them, as the thing that they need. And that could be whether you're in weight loss or, whether you're in the, diet and nutrition, whether you're a business coach, whether you're, a spiritual entrepreneur, whatever it is. What I tend to see is people really devalue their work and devalue the transformation. Oh, I'm just a mindset coach. I'm just a breathwork coach. I'm just a business coach. It's like, you are so much more than that. And when you really refine your zone of genius and you're able to communicate the mind-blowing transformation that people have in your world, and you communicate that is what I call high-level work. Yeah. Because nobody else can do it your way. Nobody else can do what you do, right? Only you can do it how you do it. Your energy, your personality, your skill set, your wisdom, your knowing, like the entire life's journey of what you've been through, nobody can replicate that. Mm-hmm. And it's really giving reverence to that, of being like, my work is so highly transformative. And everybody listening, you know that. You know that your work is highly transformative. But it's the marketing aspect. It's how do I message that? How do I communicate that? How do I really stand in the conviction of my work? Mm-hmm. Because when you do, you will call in high-level individuals who are the ones who want to work with you, who will pay, who will be your number one clients, who are like, this person is amazing. They'll be, posting about you in their Instagram stories, sharing you to all their friends and family of like, you've changed my life. And the work that we all do here is life-changing. It's life-changing.
Yeah. And because I 100% agree as well in everything that you've just said, especially being able to visually, that my area and my love is visually showcasing the story, the transformation. But thank you. I would really love to tap into, though, someone has come into your world, right? And they're hitting 20K months. They've clearly got things good. Things are already good. They're already able to bring clients in. Mm-hmm. But they cannot seem to unlock that next level. like there is a door and they cannot seem to unlock that next phase because I guess they're sort of looking at what they do similar to others.
Yes.
Right? Similar to others. Oh, yes. Just like another spiritual coach, I really tap into your core, how you feel, who you are, like the energy, the like how do you really bring that? Because what I've seen, diving into this a little bit further, and then there was this conversation just the other day that I had, is when you focus on all the transformations, it's not a hell yes, right? All the transformations, it's like, yes, this sounds something good. But there's really a key when you dive into one element of the transformation. That's when people are like all in, yes. So for somebody who is at this point, there's many things that their work helps their clients do.
Yeah.
How do you focus in on, this is the one thing we're going to hone in on, and here's how we're going to draw it out through all your work?
Yeah. So I love this question because this is something that a lot of people are like, well, I'm good at so many things. Yeah, I get. So what I love to do is like when I work with a client, usually what I tend to see is they're not specific in how they actually facilitate that transformation, right? So because maybe it is through different modalities. So what I love to do is like, we tend to just break it down of like, okay, let's talk about the transformation that you recently brought through for a client. Let's talk about one that lights you up, that you feel like, okay, I know exactly how we made this happen. Let's focus on the micro shifts that took place, micro things. Now, this is where we get really specific in our messaging and our content. But here's what I will say before this. What people tend to do is like, I need to focus on my messaging. I need to focus on my communication and my marketing. 9 times out of 10, it's always an internal conviction first. Because who writes the messaging? You do. Where are you writing it from? If you're writing it from a place of maybe you're in doubt or you're unsure and you're thinking, well, this isn't really clear, you're already doubting yourself. That's already going to come across in your messaging. So I always start in like the inside work of being like, okay, how convicted are you in your work right now? If you're telling me about your offer, do I feel that level of conviction? And you'd be surprised, not all the time, right? And so it's really working on this conviction of like, okay, let's talk about, your recent client, or let's bring to mind some of the recent transformations that you've had with some clients. And let's drop into that. What were some of the specific things that you did with that client to help them lead to that result? And this is where I really, really believe in mentorship and having somebody who can see this, right? Because this is going to be different from person to person. However, if you're listening right now and this is you, what you could do is literally grab out a pen and be like, okay, these are the micro shifts that happened. This is the transformation that I saw in my client. Okay, how did you make that happen? Was there a specific topic or modality that you focused on? Do you have a certain method? And then what I would do is I would break up each of those individual and just talk about that one thing. Because what people tend to do is that when you're going to market your offer, you're talking about all the transformation that happens. And then it's too general and it's too vague, right? And I'm sure that you've probably seen this in your world. So what we want to do is we want to get hyper specific and talk about your transformation that you provide your clients through one lens for that one piece of content, that one video reel, that one carousel post, the one email. And then the next day you maybe pivot to something else, another type of, micro shift in your work, right? Because especially I think too, when you're in the realm of like some of the, the outcomes are not as tangible, like my client felt more confident or she feels more authentic. Okay, let's just talk about the piece of confidence. What does that look like? More confident how? How did that change for her? Oh, instead of going out and buying perhaps new clothes, she went into her wardrobe and found the dress that she's been wanting to, we all have that dress that we've been just making for when we feel good. And it's like she put that on and she took herself out for dinner just by herself because she felt that good. Can you give your audience a micro experience of what confidence is like? Right? Because it all comes down to, yes, as your zone of genius, the marketing aspect. So can you choose a hyper specific angle to talk about one aspect of your work? And then maybe the next day you talk about another specific angle. right? Maybe that their nervous system is more calm, right? Okay, go into that. What was your methodology to help them have a more, let's say, quote unquote, calm nervous system? And what does a calm nervous system look like? What do they do differently? So it's choosing the different lenses that we speak of for our transformational work, and not thinking that we have to get it all in one video, right? Less is more. Simplicity is everything. Simplicity and being very specific with your language.
Yeah, and that's why as well, when it comes to your content, especially like video content, and when you're launching an offer, when you're promoting an offer, one of the many reasons that I love video content is it's kind of like, think of your offer, think of all the content that you're putting out like a TV series. And each little video is like a small episode of it. You're not in the one episode going to dive into the whole storyline of all the show, you know, like all the excitement, all the conflict, all the ups and downs. Each episode has a bit of a theme to it. It has a key storyline. And when you're able to really focus in on that, that's when people want to binge your content, because they want to binge everything, because it's all another piece of the puzzle. So I really love that, this idea of like looking just in one lens, really diving and feeling into that one, because if anything, Steph, it's kind of one of those situations. It's like that new level, new devil. And you've niched down. Or not perhaps niched down in a sense, but you've found your zone of genius. That's what I prefer to say, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure to just sort of niche down, find your thing. But
everyone's like, oh, that word niche is stressing me out.
Yeah, absolutely. So you found your zone of genius and you've honed in on that. Cool. Next level unlocked. And now this is where you're like, okay, well, this is what I can do, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can do. But if I only hone in on, you know, this side of the area, what about the other people who will still, you know, there's that fear of getting specific and cutting out people and not speaking to other people that, yes, you could help. And I think that right here is the reason why you consistently bring in your dream clients, is because you're so specific on, this is exactly what you're going to see. This is the exact transformation. This is the specific transformation. So for somebody who has stepped into that next level, right? They're like, yep, I'm playing bigger. I'm getting right into my zone of genius. I'm really honing in. I'm being less vague with who I'm speaking to. And it's like, okay, but if we look at it, you're still listing out 50, let's say 7 different transformations every time. What would you say to them?
I would say pick the ones that you see the most, like the big theme in your work. You know, like choose the ones that your ideal clients deem really high in value.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are the ones that they really deem high in value? And it's not about being, you know, I hear this a lot of like, I don't want to be repetitive in my messaging. Right? And it's like, yeah, I get that, but you have to be consistent, because if you're not consistent, people are not going to see you as an authority, right? One day I'm talking about high level sales, and the next day I'm talking about, I don't know, ads or, you know, automated funnels. People are going to be like, wait, what? There's a bit of a disconnect. It's honoring what is your zone of genius, and like pick 3 different things. Pick 3 main transformations that happen in your world that you feel are the most common, that you also have a very high level of conviction on, right? And we have this mindset that it's like, well, I have to talk about all of them so that I can track all of those different types of people. But you do that and you'll speak to nobody at all, right? And I see this a lot of like, when you're very general in your languaging, your posts might get, for example, I've had the shift when I talk to more people, my posts had more engagement perhaps, but I was not making more money. Right. And when I pivoted my messaging to be very specific, and sometimes there's not a lot of likes or comments, but, you know, it tripled my income. So there's something to be said about being specific, because you don't want to work with everybody. You actually do want to repel the people who you know are not a good fit for you. And it's okay. Right. And for us big hearted entrepreneurs, we're like, no, I want to make sure that everybody is it's like, it doesn't work like that, because not everybody is willing to pay you that kind of money for the work that you offer. But your dream clients are, but you have to be speaking to them. And the thing about premium level, especially like high level sales, is they need to know that you're very nuanced. in your ability to communicate what their problems are. You need to highlight the problems that perhaps are in their world, but they're not really aware of it. Or to be like, I see you doing this one thing, but actually that's not the problem. It's actually this. They want to see that you're a thought leader, right? That you have a very specific set of skills to help them with their problem. And you have to be able to communicate that for them to be like, oh, wow, this is a problem that's worth thousands of dollars here. Right. And so it's choosing what are the problems that your client deems high in value. And their core desires, right? Not just speaking to like the problems and the pain, but what do they desire? And what do they desire, 5 years from now? Can you communicate that much into their future self of who they're stepping into? What happens when they work with you? What happens after the 6 month, a year from now? Where are they in their journey? Because that's what you want to call in. You want to call in clients that see themselves in the future that they really want, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be the ones that actually go out and create that.
It's just sort of unlocked like this vision in a sense for me, right? This visual that we talk about getting specific. And I think you've just really like clearly outlined that there are areas where perhaps, yes, you're specific on who you help. All right, cool. You are specific on who you help, who your dream clients are. But are you specific on the transformation? Are you specific on where they're at when they enter your world, when they start working with you? Are you really specific on your magic and what you bring? And I think there's a really great opportunity wherever you're listening right now after this episode, emphasis after this episode. Don't pause now. Don't stop now. It's good. It's good. But after this episode, I really want you to take a moment and think, have you got really hyper specific on all of these areas? Because a lot of people just look at, all right, I need to get clearer on who my dream client is. I need to get clearer on what my zone of genius is. But what about getting super clear on where they're at when they enter your world and where they are after this offer, after this transformation? What does it look like? And get specific on it. So, Steph, I would really love to know, but before we sort of finish up, I would just love to know, like, I like to think of it as the plot twist in your journey, right? If we were creating the movie of Stephanie Swail, what would have been the biggest plot twist? The moment that everything changed, the moment where, she's like, I can't do this anymore. Things need to change. This didn't work. What would have been, can you talk us through the plot twist?
Okay. I have something that comes to mind. Not in a way of like, this isn't working, but in a way of like, I am done playing. Okay.
Yeah.
And for all of you listening right now, something that it was quite clear to me last year was a big dream of mine was to be on stage speaking. Right. And so April of last year, I had this moment where I was like, I want to speak on stage. And I remember saying at one of the live events that I was in, like in a journal exercise. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to speak on stage. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, probably like next year or the year after. Like, I'm not ready to speak on stage. Right. And so there came a moment where I was like, no. What do you mean I'm not ready to speak on stage? But I want to do it now. And there was a part of me that was like, yeah, but you're not ready yet. Right. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that anymore, that I'm not ready yet. And there's so many things in my business that I wanted to do that I kept putting off because I'm like, not ready for it yet. What the heck is going to prepare me to be ready for speaking on stage other than just to speak on stage? I speak on Instagram Live. We run master classes all the time. I don't know how many live events I've done, thousands of hours at this point. There was a moment where I just said, you know what? What if I just stopped delaying the things that I'm saying that I'm not ready for and just did them now? Right. And then I had this opportunity to speak on stage at Freedom Queen Live, and I ran for it. In every sense of that possible. And so the plot twist for me was just this moment of like, why am I disqualifying myself right now and believing that my future self will be qualified, but me not now in this moment, I'm not qualified enough to speak on stage? Is that really true? And so the plot twist is the moment where I'm like, I'm not going to play small anymore. And so for all of you listening right now, I know for a fact I'm willing to bet on this. When you're listening right now, there's something that you've been wanting to do in your business that you're like, I'm not ready for. Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's speaking on stage. Maybe it's creating your first video course. Maybe it's hosting a retreat. Maybe it's hosting an in-person experience. Maybe it's creating a mastermind. Maybe it's creating something, and you have deemed yourself not ready for it yet. And what a shame it would if I actually believed that to be the case last year. I don't know if we'd be having this conversation right now. Probably not, actually. And so this moment happened. We get to be on this amazing podcast. Why? Because the decision I made of like, I'm just going to do the things that I say I'm not ready for. And so if you're listening right now, anything that you've said you're not ready for, write it down on a piece of paper. And I want you to look at that thing right now and you'll be like, you know what? I'm ready for it. Because if you weren't ready for it, the desire wouldn't be there. The desire is there. And that thing that you want to do has appeared because you're ready for it. And what if you just did the thing that you, quote unquote, are ready for? You'd be ready for it. And you would become the version of you who goes for the things that she's ready for because she just decides to do it. And so it is a moment of like, you just draw a line in the sand and you say, you know what? I've been, not ready to launch this mastermind, not ready to start this course, not ready to do this. But if I'm believing I'm not ready, it's because I actually am ready. And that's why the opportunity exists in front of you. And leaders don't wait for the stars and the moon to align for us to be in a certain, I don't know, not be Mercury retrograde, or like not to be like 11, 11, 11. Now is the time. Leaders don't do that. Leaders move. You want something, you have something in mind, go and do it. Because it's not about doing the thing. To me, it wasn't about speaking on stage, which happened multiple times last year. But it was about who I became in the process of honoring the thing that I really wanted to do. That's what was the greatest gift I've ever given myself. And the level of conviction it unlocks in you is like palpable to other people. So find the things you've told yourself you're not ready for and do it. Make fear, make problems, make challenges the freaking goal, not the obstacle. And you will do anything that you put your mind to. And it all becomes possible. It's just a matter of choosing to actually go for it because you are ready as you are right now. You have all the knowledge. You have all the wisdom. You were born with the gifts that you have. There's nothing else that can qualify you. You've been qualified. You just got to do it. You just got to decide that you're worth moving for, and not you, the people that you're meant to serve. Right? If I didn't get up on stage speaking, I wouldn't have brought all those women on the stage with me. And so many of them have had the most insane shifts since meeting me in person, coming to that live event. And imagine I never moved for them.
Yeah.
Imagine you never moved for your people, because when you think that you're doing something for you, of this mastermind or this retreat or this video course, you're making it about you. But when you make it about all the people that are meant to come with you, and in the moment that it's all happening, you're like, I can't believe at one point I said I wasn't ready for this. And look at all these people whose lives have freaking changed.
And the really important thing here is, if you're saying I'm not ready, then you're not looking for the door.
Yeah.
Like, the door isn't gonna be there because you're not looking for it. You're not looking for, well, it could happen now, so let me find the door. It's just down there. So I think that's brilliant. I think that if you have said, I'm ready to play bigger, I'm ready to go all in, this is your chance to do that, because it's a phrase that's thrown around a lot. And I love this so much, Steph, because you are literally, this is your moment. If you have said that, if you want to play bigger, go all in, then this is exactly what you're going to do after this podcast. You're going to sit down and you're going to think to yourself, when is a time that I have said, 2 years from now, or I'm not ready for it yet, or it wouldn't make sense for it to happen this year. How could I go from where I am now to, it happening in 6 years? It would have to take X amount of time. I want you, if you are serious about playing bigger, okay, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself, right? You have, let's be honest, you are. I want you, let go of, but what if it doesn't happen? Okay, because this is also what Steph's spoken about here. I want you to get onto your stories, and I want you to claim it. And I want you to tag Steph. I want you to tag myself. Okay. Steph, your Instagram for anybody who isn't following you?
Stephanie and Swail, Swail. You tag me and I will run to your DMs and being like, oh my God, I've got your back. 100%.
Yes. So
Witness
right here, you claim, right? I'm not ready for it. No, you are. If you have, this is your moment to step into courage, right? Full courage, step all in. You've got Steph and myself. We're going to be checking out your story. We're like, yes. Okay. And once you put it out there, you'll be amazed at the difference. There is so many lessons that you will learn in yourself by actually going out and claiming it, because so many people won't, because they'll be worried, oh, but what if it doesn't happen? Oh, well, then what will people say? What will I look like? No, people don't care, right? This is for you in this moment to claim it, and then you've put it out there. And then the next thing is, well, you've taken that responsibility of like, okay, I'm putting it out there. That's then how you're going to actually start making it happen. This is the first step. And I think this is a really beautiful opportunity to claim it on your stories, tag Steph, tag myself. And this is the beginning. This podcast episode with you, Steph, is going to be what's changed for so many people. Like, what was the moment? What was their plot twist? So, Steph, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, sharing your magic, sharing so much incredible value. And I think the world of you. For anyone who wants to go into your magic more, they've got your Instagram. How do they work with you? What's the best place for someone to begin their next step with you?
There's a couple of options. So you want to dive into my world and you're like, what's a space where I can like get my feet wet? I have a couple of what I call micro offers. I have a training on high ticket sales for closing it in your DMs. I have a free relentless Telegram channel where I drop riffs on leadership, on sales, on messaging, all the things. And then I have a mastermind called The Room, which is a 6-month mastermind for all of you scaling to 10 and 20K months. And we really focus on leadership. Surprise, surprise. We focus on leadership. We focus on messaging. We focus on your offer creation, on product suite, and really out of the box launch strategies and sales strategies. So I'm big on like out of the box. I've done the 1 million live launches, and I like to find really easy ways to bring people into my world that doesn't require me to do 1,000,001 free masterclasses. So I love really innovative launch and selling strategies. So that's what we focus on The Room, but predominantly it's for you to elevate into the leader who is able to call in the people that you actually want to be working with. And so, this is an amazing challenge for you to do that in your stories. And really to this whole thing, it's like, let people witness you as you go and claim the thing that you want. Be the embodiment of it. Be like, yeah, I'm claiming this, and this whole thing of like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Don't live in the what if. Play to win. Yeah. Play to win. Don't play to not lose or take the safe bet road. Claim it and let people see you claim it. I think it's so cool when we make claims of being like, this is what I'm doing this year. Are you coming with me? And I'm like, heck yeah. Yeah. It's such a sexy thing to people be like, wow, that level of conviction, and to just show up over and over and over again, especially for the people that you're meant to lead. If you want to be seen as a leader, you got to lead yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And it starts right here. It starts right now with what you do after listening to this episode. So take that next step, whether it be your stories. That's the first bit. Steph's then going to come and be like, what? I'm going to be coming in and be like, yes. All right. And if you feel like your next step is joining Steph's world, right? Like you've then got that opening right there. Okay. But this is the start for so many reasons. And I cannot wait to see what happens next for you. Steph, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you. It's been amazing. I love this conversation. Like, my gosh, can we do part 2? Like, this has been so good. We need a part 2.
Yes. Stay tuned.